Hi, how are you, Chris?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for your time this morning. I appreciate it. And it's a subject that's pretty close to my heart. Who hasn't had honey? I mean, really, hands up. Who hasn't tasted honey?
Well, that's right. And hey, New Zealanders are some of the biggest honey eaters in the world per capita. How about that?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we love it. We get it from when we're kids on toast.
Yes, that's right.
I think that's how it begins. Would that be right?
That's definitely how it begins. But, of course, now we've got this honey that, well, you don't use on toast. You put on wounds.
Okay, yeah, well, hang on now. Whoa. We're talking, back up the B. We're talking about Manuka honey.
We are.
Which we all know about because I've had Manuka honey on toast.
Sure, that's right.
But now, this is off on a bit of a tangent here, Cliff. You're talking about honey being used for medicinal purposes.
That's right.
And now tell us the story.
Well, it's a rags to riches story, isn't it? And it's in this book that I've written, the biography of an extraordinary honey, and that's definitely the term for it. You don't come across the biographies of a substance, but in this case, that's the only way to tell it. It's really sort of a documentary or a great New Zealand story of how this honey that, as you say, once upon a time, we just put on our toast, and in fact, most people didn't even like the taste of Manuka honey that much, and beekeepers had a really hard time trying to sell it. And now it's gotten to the point where it's one of the most, well, probably the most famous honey in the world, and it's definitely the most expensive honey in the world. And it's all on the back of this discovery that Dr. Peter Mullen made, sort of by chance at Waikato University back in the early 1980s.
Now, Cliff, you're a specialist when it comes to bees. You've done a lot of work, a lot of research, spent a lot of time mucking around with bees. Now, is it true when we hear, and I've just read that nearly a quarter of our medicines come from plants and natural products anyway?
They do. Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I don't find that too stunning. Why wouldn't it be that way? Why wouldn't nature do these things? Why wouldn't there be stuff on the planet that's good for us?
Yeah, nature's a really good experimenter on our behalf for millions of years. What we've done really in recent times is we've taken a lot of those natural substances and then made synthetic derivatives of them. But in the case of this Manuka honey, it's an ingredient that only appears in Manuka honey, and then only some strains of Manuka honey, that is just amazing in terms of its antibacterial activity or property, and it's able to kill bacteria that are resistant to those standard or synthetic antibiotics that are out there, and it can do it even at very low doses.
What sort of things can it cure?
Well, MRSA and the various other types of bacteria which are associated with wounds and burns, the sort of things that sometimes, close down hospitals even. But there are these bacteria that are on wounds and burns and leg ulcers, which mean that the wounds don't heal like they should, that they persist. And it was, in fact, these wound care nurses, the district nurses that go out and treat those sorts of wounds and leg ulcers and bed sores. They're the ones that really showed that this honey had amazing properties. It was something that just worked, and that was what was really great, particularly for those people who sometimes they tear their hair out basically trying to cure some of these wounds for people.
Is this taken orally or is it applied straight to the wound?
It's applied straight to the wound, yeah, and it does the job. And honey itself is a great wound care product anyway. It's been used for 3,000 years. We know all about it, really. It's all there in our history, and even up until the Second World War, into the Second World War, in fact, in New Zealand, it was a standard substance used on wounds. It's just that when the antibiotics came in, penicillin to begin with, those sorts of things, just at the time of the Second World War, the medical profession thought, oh, well, this is going to be the cure-all. We're not going to have a problem with this. But, of course, bacteria are way, way too crafty. They develop resistance to these antibiotics. And so that's when they started looking again at honey, and when they found honey as a good wound care product, and then this special antibacterial activity of Manuka honey, put those two together, and it was really quite an amazing substance. I'm
going straight home for a pot of honey, there's no doubt about it. Manuka honey especially, sweet success, the miraculous story of how much maligned honey became a medical marvel. The book is out now at all good bookstores. Cliff, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks very much, Chris.